Brendan, you and I have been inside the room. We've had the conversations, and we have a pretty good sense of how candidates act and respond to such things. What do you think the play is here for the RNC to sort of put this out there at this point, talking about, oh, well, we're going to do the loyalty pages. Everybody wants to be on the stage. They're going to do this. My experience as a county chairman, state chairman, and national chairman is that candidates don't really play that way. How do you see it?
And I don't think we should act like Donald Trump is any normal candidate. Forget the pledge. Whatever happens, if Donald Trump does not win the nomination, there is no chance that he is going to be a gracious loser.
Hey. Introducing Ron DeSantis at a rally.
And I think it's actually something you need to think about if you are considering getting in this race. If you're Ron DeSantis and you go after Donald Trump and you lose, and you beat Donald Trump, excuse me, Donald Trump is probably going to undermine you in the general election. Now, I don't think all 30% of the Republican Party that sticks by Donald Trump is necessarily going to stay at home just because Trump's not the nominee. But if it's 5%, if it's 10%, right, if he's claiming fraud, like he did in Iowa in the 2016 primary, he's going to undermine whoever our nominee is if it's not him. Forget the pledge. I think we should expect that, and you have to be thinking about that if you're potentially going to get in this race.
Well, the other thing about the pledge is it's just dumb. I mean, what do you hope to accomplish with this idea of getting these guys to sign a piece of paper that if Donald Trump's the nominee, I can tell you now, if Donald Trump's the nominee, Larry Hogan is going to be hard-pressed to stand up there palling around with them along with a lot of other
she thinks
folks.
It
doesn't mean anything.
It's about the debate, but I don't think that Donald Trump really needs the debate stage. And I think that's another thing we need to question. Is Donald Trump actually going to go on a debate stage?
And this is a reason that Donald Trump, or frankly anyone else who wanted to, could say, I'm not signing the pledge. Otherwise, I would do the debate. Right. But that pledge is too much. So it's a little...
It's a little bit of a waste of time, but they like doing that. So, Jen, I want you to listen to Donald Trump in 2015.
Are you going to reconsider an independent run if they come after you to try to take you out?
I'm going to have to see what happens. I will see what happens. I have to be treated fairly. You know, when I did this, I said, I have to be treated fairly. If I'm treated fairly, I'm fine. All I want to do is a level playing field.
So this is a little like sort of the definition of insanity, you know, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome. What is it about this man that seemingly drives this party to continue to pursue him in the way that they do, set the stage for him in the way that they're trying, and think that they're going to have a different outcome, to Brendan's point, that if it's anyone else but him, that he's going to go, you know what, I'm good. Yeah, I stand with this guy.
I mean, an element of it has to be fear of fundraising, of online, of him attacking them, for sure. But beyond the comments he just made, none of them seem willing to attack him either. And there's almost like this hope that he's just going to somehow disappear into a dark hole and not come out again, when there's no evidence at any point through his political career that that's what he's going to do.
Never has been, and I'm telling you, folks, it never will be. So Brendan, I want to read to you what Ronna McDaniel had to say according to Politico. Quote, I think they all want to be on the debate stage. I think President Trump would like to be on the debate stage. That's what he likes to do, and I expect they will all be there. Really? I mean, she cannot be that naive about this man that she has spent the last 4 or 5 years working with and seeing how he operates to believe, to your point, that somehow he's going to come around and be a team player.
You need a debate stage if you need attention, if you want to get people to hear you. Donald Trump has never had a problem getting people to pay attention to him, nor is he going to see himself as needing to debate these other people. He is running as though he's the incumbent. That this is his party, and frankly, he has hijacked the party. I mean, that's why they're all afraid of him, because he knows there are tens of millions of people out there who are diehard for him. And if you offend them, they may not show up in November, even if he's not the nominee. And that's ultimately the kiss of death in a general election. Look, he is somebody who I will give Ronna McDaniel a little. I don't know that there is a good way to handle this. Like, I don't know that there is a good play. I think she's running this play because it's probably the only one that she can come up with at this point. I've been trying for years. I don't know how to get around Donald Trump. I do think you have to go through Donald Trump, and I'm not sure who exactly is willing to do that at this point.
So to that, we got about 30 seconds left. So to that point, Jen, going through Donald Trump, how does the party, if they want to get on the other side of what Brendan's talking about, coalesce around someone? Is it DeSantis? Is it a Hogan? Who has that ability to run through Donald Trump?
I don't think they can do that in a room. I think they have to see who punches back to Trump and where that resonates with the public. I don't think you do that through just gathering in a room.
Well, they seem to think so.
Well, we'll see.
I don't know why.
It'll be the first time that happens.
But they do. Jen Psaki and Brendan Buck, thank you guys very much. Coming up, it is not red or blue, it's green. New court documents reveal how Fox executives really felt about putting election deniers on TV. Next.